Shalom. I'd like to start off by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Kakadash. I'd like to give a double honors to the elders and to the apostles of GMS Great Millstone who do rule well in the citation of hope for elect. It's the brother Damawal from the GMS Cleveland branch coming back with another video. And it says in the title, EU to jail regular people for sharing RT content. All right, and this is just the beginning of it. All right, but that's play a little bit. And this is why the apostles, all right, the spirit came on the apostle Tahar, all right, back in the One West days, all right, to not allow women to come to the school. Okay, and this is why, okay, over here at GMS, all right, women are not allowed, all right, at camp. Okay, women and kids under a certain age, okay, they're not allowed, all right, to do what the men do. Okay, and she's gonna mention, all right, of her being scared and all this for simply bringing out the truth. All right, but this is why a lot of people jumped on the bandwagon of the prophets, all right, telling the truth about this place. Okay, but they jumped in it, all right, just because the Spirit of the Lord, he said that the Spirit of the Lord was going to come over people in the last days. All right. And so they got to tell the truth. All right. They got to say whatever the Lord put on their spirit. All right. To reveal about what their government or what these businesses are doing behind the scenes. All right. But yet and still, all right, we're dealing with the real devil here. All right. We're dealing with the real counterpart of Satan, all right, which is Esau Edom, the so-called white man, all right. And so telling the truth on him, he doesn't like that. Matter of fact, he hates that, okay. And the only reason why he hasn't reacted, all right, to people that's telling the truth on this goddamn devil, all right, is because of the Heavenly Father, okay. But a lot of you people who have expose the devil in one way or another, all right, and it shouldn't even, in a righteous world, this shouldn't even be anything that you should be worried about your life being taken over, all right. But we have to understand Job 9:24, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked, all right. And when wicked people do crimes, what's the first thing they want to do? They want to get rid of any witnesses, all right, that could place them at the scene of the crime. Okay, and it's the same thing with the so-called white man, all right? This generation and the generation previously, all right, this devil always tried to manipulate the following generation, all right, to think, okay, that things are just the way they are, all right? Not knowing that the last generation always suffered, okay, and then he just lied and then clean it up through the next generation. That's why everything this devil does over time, it get watered down. All right, to the point to where if it's 50, 60 years later, he'll get it thrown out there. Oh, we really didn't do that. All right, the same thing with them. Want to take out the history of their forefathers dealing with the so-called Negroes. All right, they don't want to teach their history. They don't want to teach slavery. They don't want to acknowledge, all right, the truth of the matter. Okay, and so now we come into a time where they already put it in the books, but now they're about to push it, all right, to the forefront. Okay, but let's just get this real quick. Isaiah 29:21. It says, I start off with verse 20. It says, "For the terrible one is brought to naught, all right, and the scorner is consumed, and all that watch for iniquity are cut off," all right. And that's basically what the Lord is doing. Okay, all these people who have made a living on scamming, right, on hurt, right, reporting somebody doing something, all right, and they basically have made a life, all right, waiting on somebody to do something crazy. Okay, all these things are about to get cut off. All these things is about to be slammed down. All right, when the missiles hit. Okay, it says, therefore, thus says the Lord. Salakia, hold on. Okay, Salakia about that. Verse 20 again, it says, for the terrible one is brought to naught, and the scorner is consumed, and all that watch for iniquity are cut off. All right, that make a man an offender for a word. All right, and lay a snare for him that reproveth in the gate, and turn aside the just for a thing of naught. All right, and that's basically what they're doing. All right, it says that make a man an offender for a word, and lay a snare for him that reproveth in the gate. All right, and so basically they're laying that snare. All right, and yes, they laying it for the so-called red-blooded Americans. All right, who are turning against this system, who are turning against the politicians and things of that nature. All right, but we know the number one enemy, all right, are the prophets, mainly of GMS. All right, because we're the ones that are linking this thing up with prophecy, and that what really matters. All right, but let's try to get this verse 21 in the NLT and see what it says real quick. It says, those who convict the innocent by their false testimony will disappear. A similar fate await those who use trickery to pervert justice and who tells lies to destroy the innocent. All right, and that's what their news channel. All right, that's what their that's what they was created to do. All right, their news channel is a part of their brainwashing. Okay, because if you don't know the truth of the matter, if you don't know what's really going on, or why the war was really started, but you just listening to the news, all right, instead of you getting the whole picture, you only getting the picture from the side of the people that want you to see what they want you to see. Okay, and this is what this white man want the American people to be like. All right, just uneducated, right? Can't make a rational decision. Okay, not a critical thinker. Okay, and this is why they have dumbed down the education system. All right, and basically this is why they made TikTok legal. Okay, because if this was a righteous government, you should have saw the way China said, hell no, we ain't doing no TikTok to our people. Okay, because it's basically like just making grown ass people, well, mainly grown ass women, all right, childish. Okay, it's just another tool for them to be childish. All right, and that's why they literally put women at the forefront, because women are very vain. All right, they only care about makeup and like the way they look. All right, why they able to rob and set up the world and set up the planet, right, in this prison system. Okay, but let's go ahead and let this play a little bit.
Oh, I will say that throughout the history of me doing this show is that I've shied away from using RT. So, and not because I don't like RT, I actually do like RT, but I've shied away from using RT. I shy away from using any state-run foreign media. I try, whether it be Press TV, whether it be RT, I always try to find the source in a more mainstream outlet. And the reason is because I want this show to appeal to people of all stripes. So, I'm trying to bring in new viewers who maybe are people who watch a lot of the mainstream news, and they're maybe now making the conversion to independent media because they realize they've been lied to this whole time. In that transition, it's good to give them sources that they in their mind believe are reputable. If you feed them a bunch of sources that they think are not reputable, they just won't believe you. And my goal is to bring those people into the fold, right? So I shy away from using RT and Press TV or, Al Jazeera or a lot of these. I try to shy away from those sites as much as I can in order to get new people to come in and say, oh, okay, so I have been lied to and this is the truth. So I try to find that same story in a mainstream outlet that has been buried deep, because a lot of times the mainstream does actually cover a lot of the same stuff. They just bury it. It's not their headline stuff. It's not the stuff that they're talking about. It's not the stuff people see unless they go digging. But it's usually there. So I'm not going to let this affect me too much, but this is something you should all be aware of. And this is really coming from the Germans. I mean, the Germans are pushing this more than anybody. They're at the forefront of really going after Russia, of sanctioning Russia. They've really upped the rhetoric against Russia. They really seem to be hunkering down for a full-blown war against Russia again. You think Germany would learn its lesson, but apparently World War I and World War II were not enough, and they want their revenge, and they seem to be going for it. And what's really strange about this is DW just reported the other day that prosecutors, German prosecutors, in fact, are now saying that, yeah, it was the Ukrainians who blew up the Nord Stream pipeline, which would be an act of terrorism against the state of Germany, and yet it was the Ukrainians who did it, and the Germans are still eyes on Russia as the target.
Right, you see? And of course, when this happened, what, a year ago? All right, we already knew it, who it was. Okay, because this is the type of shit that they do. But these people will throw the rock, hide their hands, and then tell their people that they was provoked. All right, the lengths this damn devil goes to try to not be the devil while being the devil is preposterous. Like, it is very you have to understand like the Lord created this devil, man, to be this type of person. All right, like to be that that evil, and then to desire to be liked at the same time is madness. right. But anyway, so all right, as you can see, okay, these devils is always manipulating the people. Okay, but it goes better if the people believe them. Okay, it goes it makes them seem like that they're doing the right thing when the people believe them. All right, when they got the Americans behind them. All right, basically cheering. All right, motivating and saying prideful things like, can't nobody fuck with America, and all these different things. This is what that's the spirit that they use these nations under. All right, tell me you're supposed to have pride about your country. All right, but these devils will take that pride that you're supposed to be have for your country, right, and would do things for you that you couldn't vote on. All right, and so basically, they don't give a damn about your country. All right, they letting America burn. All right, they're allowing these jobs to be taken by AI. Right, they set you Americans up to fail, but yet and still they want you to fight for them. All right, and this is the trap that these people have set in. Okay, because they don't look at you, the regular people, as anything. All right, besides useless eaters. Okay, and so when it's time, they looking at you to sacrifice your kids. All right, because of what? Because this is America. This is the greatest place on earth. Let them tell it. All right, but you go over to another country, you be like, hold on. You ain't got to do what? Ain't no such thing as what? The house been in your family for how long? You see, and then you start realizing that America and this news and the way that it want to portray life to the Americans are, this is the best country. No other place on earth is technologically sound as America, and ain't no other country more advanced as the white man. Well, that's a bunch of hogwash, right? That's a bunch of hogwash. Okay, and that's another reason why them making this internet for everybody hurt them. All right, because their lives started getting exposed, as well as they couldn't keep things to only the upper echelon. Meaning that at first, before the internet, only the upper echelon, the people who could afford it, was able to travel and take vacations to over to places. So how other countries live, okay, was only spread it through word of mouth. But now you have the internet, all right, and now you have the average Keisha taking trips over here to Dubai, okay, and then they come back, and now it's more easier for them to put the two and two together, all right, to understand that America is just a big ass depression, right? It's a big ass prison state, okay? And they food over here is the worst. All these, everything compared to the other countries, Americans get the poison version of it, all right? But you would never know this, okay, if you didn't travel and people didn't make these videos, okay? Because the government does a good job in keeping other countries' information not easy attainable. All right, and so that's one of the main reasons why they want to get these people off the internet. All right, because they're not able to hide their lies anymore. They're not able to say, "Oh, we winning in this war," right? or as Trump just said, they want to. What did he say? He said Iran want to make a deal bad. They want to make a deal bad. Nigga, they just bombed the shit out y'all. Shut up. You see, and these are the type of things though that they can't just say if you are posting RT, right? Because if I'm not mistaken, that's the Russian channel, right, for their news. Okay, so they're going to give you more of a full perspective of what's going on. All right, when America is trying to portray to their citizens, all right, that we the biggest and the baddest.
Saying Ukrainian state authorities were behind the 2022 sabotage of the Nord Stream gas pipelines linking Russia with Europe, German prosecutors said on Thursday. In a statement detailing the charges brought against suspect Serhiy K. on Wednesday, prosecutors say that he and 6 accomplices had acted on the orders of state authorities in Ukraine. So
there you go right there. All right, I don't want to let too much of that play because there you go. Basically, the guys who did it said that the Ukrainian government told them to do it. All right, and this is why they're going to take down the internet, because it's too much truth coming out. All right, everything these devils do. All right, the truth of why they did it is coming out. And if it wasn't nothing shameful, all right, of them doing that, they wouldn't have to lie about it. All right, they could have came out when that pipeline had first had blew up and could just told the truth about it. All right, but they didn't. Okay, so they go to show you that they knew what the hell they were doing, and they wanted to keep it redacted. Okay.
RT. So, and not because I don't like RT. I actually do like RT, but I've shied away from using RT. I shy away from using any state-run foreign media. I try, whether it be Press TV, whether it be RT, I always try to find the source in a more mainstream outlet. And the reason is because I want this show to appeal to people of all stripes. So, I'm trying to bring in new viewers who maybe are people who watch a lot of the mainstream news, and they're maybe now making the conversion to independent media because they realize they've been lied to this whole time. In that transition, it's good to give them sources that they in their mind believe are reputable. If you feed them a bunch of sources that they think are not reputable, they just won't believe you. And my goal is to bring those people into the fold, right? So I shy away from using RT and Press TV or, Al Jazeera or a lot of these. I try to shy away from those sites as much as I can in order to get new people to come in and say, oh, okay, so I have been lied to and this is the truth. So I try to find that same story in a mainstream outlet that has been buried deep, because a lot of times the mainstream does actually cover a lot of the same stuff. They just bury it. It's not their headline stuff. It's not the stuff that they're talking about. It's not the stuff people see unless they go digging. But it's usually there. So, I'm not going to let this affect me too much, but this is something you should all be aware of. And this is really coming from the Germans. I mean, the Germans are pushing this more than anybody. They're at the forefront of really going after Russia, of sanctioning Russia. They've really upped the rhetoric against Russia. They really seem to be hunkering down for a full-blown war against Russia again. You think Germany would learn its lesson, but apparently World War I and World War II were not enough, and they want their revenge. And they seem to be going for it. And what's really strange about this is DW just reported the other day that prosecutors, German prosecutors, in fact, are now saying that, yeah, it was the Ukrainians who blew up the Nord Stream pipeline, which would be an act of terrorism against the state of Germany. And yet it was the Ukrainians who did it.
And there's also another reason why Esau Edom, all right, through the division that the Lord is creating all right, through their different tribes, all right. This is why they're going to fall, all right, because Germany, right, the rest of the EU is going to turn on America, all right, eventually, okay, because let's not forget Germany is not in that same Europe. Europe itself is not in the same predicament as the U.S. Okay, and so basically they're getting hit worse, all right, because their next door neighbor is Russia, okay, and so they can't get a lot of things that they've been getting, all right, more easily than when they had when Germany and Russia was dealing with gas and trading and things of that nature, all right, and by them being so close like that, okay, at the end of the day, all of them is going to eventually going to turn on who? America. All right, and that's why Obadiah, when you read Obadiah, it says all thee that was that ate thy bread, all right, that was in confederacy with thee, have turned and laid a wound for thee, all right, and that's basically the Lord telling them, all right, that all these different nations, okay, that think that makes up the power, all right, of the EU, all those different countries is going to eventually going to turn on the whore, all right, which is America, okay. But more importantly, it's going to be a lot of infighting between these white people, all right. And so if Satan's kingdom be divided, how shall it stand? Okay, and that's what's coming. Okay, so the Lord just bringing that division, all right, and all the while exposing this devil. He got nowhere to run, all right. He got no way, okay, to produce a lie, and then that lie take on, and people starting to believe it. No, all right. Now, soon they do something, all right. Before an hour pass, a video come out showing the truth of the matter, all right. So they can't get away with anything anymore. There's too many cameras. All right, but real quick, let's get a couple of scriptures, then we're going to close it out. All right, the point is made. All right, so now they about to start really regulating people who using RT, okay, and basically just bringing out any type of news that is different, all right, from the mainstream news. Okay, they're going to start gelling your ass. All right, let's go over here to Amos real quick. Amos 8 and 11, it says, behold, the days come, said the Lord power, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst of water, but of hearing the word of the Lord. Okay, because that's basically what it comes down to. All right, because all of our videos are always 90% of the time centered around geopolitics. Okay, and so us going into the Bible, all right, and showing every country and what all these different countries are going to be doing, all right, they look at that as the worst, all right, because there's no going back and forth with the Bible, all right, so now they got to make us look like that we're the problem, okay, until eventually they're going to try to outlaw the Bible, all right, because these devils is doing everything that the Bible said don't do, all right, or everything the Bible says to show you who's the problem with the earth, all right, and guess what, their actions are lined up with who's the problem of the earth, all right, and the only way you can really see that, and the only testimony of that is what is the Bible. Okay, so eventually this is what they're coming for, all right, and then they do a great job in trying to mask it and make it seem like that they're not coming after the Bible, but that's exactly what they're doing, because what else tells you, all right, not to be warring, okay, or what else tell you to treat the people good and not to be letting boys deal with boys and girls deal with girls, and the man should be the head of the household, right? Because this place has made it this far for being the opposite of the Bible, right? Giving people a place to come and do what the hell they want to do. So now all of a sudden, they're going to be the same people that love the Bible. That doesn't make any sense. All right. So all this is really aimed towards the prophets, man. All right. But all in all, though, women like Kim, all right, she's starting to feel that heat. I think she said they had threatened her life or something too. All right, but this is this is Revelations 2:10. All right, and that's the repercussion of you not having the Heavenly Father. All right, the Lord. Okay, Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. All right, because guess what? We got a covering. All right, we already know what the devil want to do. Okay, but that's why it also said you're supposed to count the cost. All right, but this Revelation 2:10, it says, "Fear none of those things which thou should suffer. Behold, the devil should cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried, and ye should have tribulation 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life." You see, this is a part of revealing what's going on in the last days, getting views, right? Telling the truth. This is what this may boil down to. All right, and guess what? If you don't stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything. All right, and so guess what? If you're willing to bring out the truth, but you're not willing to die for it, maybe you in the wrong industry. Okay, because that's exactly what the Lord said that, hey, may happen. But if it do happen, guess what? I'm gonna give you a crown of life. All right, and so you gotta understand what that gives you. All right, you gotta understand what that means. Okay. So with that, I pray the lesson was edifying. I want to give all praise and honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, and double honor to the elders and to the apostles of GMS Great Millstone. Shalom.